Top 10 most insane man-made disasters. Hello there, YouTube. Tell me something, you ever heard of an earthquake? A hurricane? Or, just any other kind of natural disaster around the world. Now, you may have heard of those and even experienced some of those. However, have you ever experienced a man-made disaster? I know it's a little hard to believe, but yes, man has actually made some of their own terrifying disasters. Kinda like kids. Just like my children. And I can't blame nature on this one, unfortunately. Maybe if they just didn't have 5s and 10s in their wallets all the time and instead carried around some serious cash like $20 bills that I can steal out of their wallets, then maybe I'd start singing a different tune. But until then, sorry kiddos, this daddy has his own agenda to push. This is Top 5 Best, everybody, and on today's list, I'm counting down 10 most insane man-made disasters. For this list, I went to college for a whole semester studying this stuff for free before anyone noticed, and when they did, I just accused them of trying to touch me, and that changed their tune real quick. Come this spring, I'll be graduating with a free master's degree, and I'm going to run for public office, which is apparently what everyone's doing nowadays? Before we get started, though, don't forget to drop a like on this video and hit subscribe so that way you can keep up with all of our daily videos. Also, we try to respond to everybody in the comments below, so if you know of an even more insane man-made disaster that I missed out on, or if you want to exchange social security numbers, just let me know down below. And not just say what's up. All that said and done, I'm your ever lovely narrator, Gentleman T-Rex. Let's begin, shall we? Number 10. Centralia, Pennsylvania. Tell me, what do you think of when I say poisonous atmosphere on a planet brought on by endless fire? If you thought of Saturn, you're right. But in regards to this list, you're wrong. I'm actually talking about Centralia, Pennsylvania, you fools! See, back in 1962, this little town decided to set its landfill on fire, which was nothing new. They had done this before in the past when burning garbage separated the men from the boys. The town city council had brought on 5 volunteer firefighters to set the landfill ablaze, which was located in an abandoned strip mine. The firefighters, probably excited to cosplay as some of the characters from Fahrenheit 451, lit that landfill up like a Christmas tree. But it turns out they weren't very good at their job. See, when they did this in the past, they always put out the fire, because that's what a firefighter does. It's kind of in the title description. However, this one time in 1962, an unsealed opening in the pit let the fire enter into the abandoned coal mines underneath the city, and you can imagine what happened next. Now, over 50 years later, these fires still burn, and the city has to basically be sorta evacuated due to the lethal fumes that come up from the ground. The roads have gone to waste, and in their concrete cracks, the smoke rises. Even in the sewers in the town, people can spot smoking coming from it. Now, virtually a ghost town. If you're looking to move but don't want to spend top dollar on a house, brother, have I got a place for you. To be honest, this sounds like some pretty good inspiration for Fallout 76. However, I'm sure living here is far more fun than playing it. Go ahead, hate me down in the comments below, I'm gonna speak my mind. Number 9. 3 Mile Island. You see, nuclear energy actually is the safest way to get energy to your house. There's no real byproduct of it, save for, nuclear waste. But other than that, it really is the cleanest and most environmentally friendly way to power up the neighborhood next to solar panels. Just gonna keep slipping Fallout into this list, I'm sure. However, it is safe until a little oopsie-daisy happens and things all go to hell, since nuclear radiation is a bit of a bad thing. Unless you like getting cancer, that is. In the early morning of Wednesday, March 28, 1979, a chain of events that culminated in a lot of equipment failures along with reactor operators who weren't trained to deal with accident conditions. Cause, if you're gonna go work at a nuclear power plant, safety is the last thing on your list to do for new hires. And it got worse. Because when the second nuclear reactor core reached meltdown status, the line of authority and, the people in charge of dealing with stuff when it hits the fan wasn't very well defined. So, no one knew what their roles were or what to do. Cause, again, it's a nuclear power plant, so who cares? And things started to get real hot and heavy when they discovered a hydrogen bubble forming on top of the pressure vessel, a device that was made to hold the core itself. If that thing had blown up, so would have the vessel. And 3 Mile Island would become Fallout 3 before Fallout had even existed. It would have been Wasteland then. Little known fact, it's a good game, look it up. Thankfully though, that vessel held its own, and there was no breach of any containment that would harm the public. What little did seep out was very tiny, but it still took the American government 11 years and around $1 billion to clean up the mess that was 3 Mile Island. This could have been hellish for everyone, and actually speaking of hell, number 8, the door to hell. There's an old online myth that back in the day some Soviets were digging a hole into the earth to mine stuff up in Siberia. But they went so deep into the ground that their drill started acting wacko and they heard things. Naturally, they got a hold of a microphone and lowered it into the pit.
Only to hear the sounds of the damned burning for all eternity.
So, why am I telling you this? Well, for one, if you ever want to keep your kids in line like I do, just play them this audio and tell them this is where I'm gonna send you one day. And two, they got it all wrong. That story's actually fake. There's no hole the damned in Siberia, it's actually in Derwiz, Turkmenistan. A town name that rolls right off the tongue. See, them crazy old Soviets were drilling for natural gas, but the ground they were working on wasn't all that strong. Stupid Soviet commie pinkos. I mean, that's something you'd think they would have checked out first, because putting all this heavy machinery on top of it, well, the inevitable collapse happened. Liters of methane gas started leaking out into the atmosphere via the large man-made crater they just dug out accidentally. And to stop this pollution, the Soviets quickly came up with a solution. That's right, they set that bad boy on fire, because you might as well have some fun when dealing with lethal gas. But see, when methane gas is lit, almost all of the environmental hazards are gone, and the Russians figured this would burn out in a couple of days. Decades later, this thing is still rip-roaring its way in the middle of Turkmenistan, and is the only reason why anyone would ever want to visit that country. Speaking of fires in the middle of the desert. Number 7. The Kuwait Oil Fires. Because he was an A-plus loser, Saddam Hussein, during the tail end of the Persian Gulf War, set in place a scorched earth policy with his retreating military to light up as many Kuwait oil wells as possible. Rumor has it this was done just to really show everyone what a child he was. 600 oil wells along with 6 million barrels of oil were set on fire from January to November of 1991. That is a lot of money that could have been used to drive our cars around. But the end result is still the same, as that stuff still ends up going into the atmosphere. Like, really, Saddam? You had to light up the desert just because you were mad you lost the war? Well, I hope you know everyone still makes fun of you over it. Number 6. The Love Canal Toxic Landfill. The Love Canal is a neighborhood on the American side of Niagara Falls in New York. At one point in time, the land was owned by a company named Hooker Chemical, because I guess the name Prostitute Chemicals was already taken. Then one day an economic boom occurred and people wanted to expand the area where this landfill was. See, Hooker Chemical used that land to make a landfill to bury their toxic waste. At first, Hooker did what most companies would never think of, and that was refuse to be given money for their property due to the health concerns that they knew about and didn't want to inflict onto anyone else. That quickly changed though when more money was tossed their way, and they sold the land in the toxic landfill, which was then used as the grounds for an up-and-coming neighborhood to be built on top of. Shockingly enough, the pollution everyone was warned about started causing issues almost instantly. Anything from birth defects to strange illnesses started to hit people, especially the students of the school they had just built there too. Well, that's nice. You move into a new neighborhood and your kid starts coming home with anomalies, the likes of which the family doctor can't seem to figure out. So they just gave them some pain meds. Again, the game followed is a very good reference point for many of these disasters right now. Number 5. The North Pacific Garbage Patch. In ocean science, there's this thing called a gyre, and what that is a vortex of water that's trapped and it spins around, and nothing can get out of it if it's stuck inside of it. Back in 1988, scientists predicted that all the garbage we dumped into our oceans will one day meet and converge into a gyre. And what that means that we get lots of garbage just eternally floating around in circles. They figured there's between 700,000 and a cool 15 million square kilometers of garbage just out there in the ocean. Percentage-wise, that's around 8% of the Pacific Ocean surface of just garbage floating there. That doesn't include dead bodies in case you were wondering, because, I know I was. Number 4. The Palomares Incident. If you ever want to get your butthole real tightened up in fear, try flying and refueling an American B-52 bomber that's got 4 hydrogen nuclear bombs in it. They never crash into you. This happened back in 1966 when a B-52 crashed into the plane that was refueling it, and those nukes fell out of it. 3 of them landed near a Spanish fishing village named Palomares, and 2 of them had their non-nuclear explosives go off. Not quite a nuclear explosion, but more like a dirty bomb, as the nuclear fission needed to set off the proper nuke didn't occur. An estimated 2 square kilometer zone thus became contaminated with plutonium. Somehow no one died, but events such as this just go to show that anything can happen, and that maybe we should, really make sure our nukes are nice and tight on an airplane instead of just tied up with some twine and making us go, yeah, that'll hold them. Number 3. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Sometimes we like to forget our mistakes of the past, but thanks to Mark Wahlberg, a movie now exists to remind us that thanks to some company's stupidity and greed, we now have another Marky Mark movie. Making world headlines back in 2010 and since been dubbed the largest oil spill in human history, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill occurred when high-pressure methane gas from the oil well that BP was drilling into exploded after it expanded and rose into the drilling rig itself. After that, the oil rig was engulfed in flames, and soon after, oil started leaking out into the ocean. Don't worry though, it wasn't that much, only 210 million US gallons of it, and it only took them 87 days to cap the well. At one point even considering using nuclear explosions to seal the well. That's God, it's just Fallout is getting so many mentions in this script. Because when I think of sealing something up for good, I think using a nuclear explosion to get the job done is a pretty good idea. Cause everyone knows a nuke is better than glue. Number 2. Global warming. Oh god, here we go. I'll just give you the explain like I'm 5 synopsis. Basically, thanks to the US using fossil fuels like coal and oil, we're adding carbon dioxide into the air. When we cut down the rainforest, we lose the means of taking this carbon dioxide out of the air, and thanks to those plants. The more carbon dioxide you have, the more the temperature increases, and this leads into what we've all heard for years. The oceans rising, the polar ice caps melting, all due to the increased temperature brought on by factors such as carbon dioxide, and what scientists call the greenhouse effect. This is the part where it actually does start to get interesting. The greenhouse effect is caused by greenhouse gases. These include water vapor, carbon dioxide, and methane. The more greenhouse gases there are in the air, the more heat the air holds. But when you add in more heat, like carbon dioxide, and there's no way to balance that carbon dioxide out, that heat just dissipates and causes issues globally, hence the term global warming. And yes, the facts are out there that support this, so please don't dox us or send us death threats. We're just a YouTube channel, please just love us. I mean, I get that enough every day from my wife and kids, so that'd be nothing new. So up until now, I've covered a wide variety of man-made disasters on this list, and while global warming is pretty bad, it's not quite number 1 bad, actually. Not yet, at least. I know a lot of you are wondering where it is, and yeah, you know what's my number 1 pick. Alright, I saved the best for last, but first I have a quick challenge that only takes 5 seconds to complete. So if you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just give it a try, it really works. Number 1, Chernobyl. Oh, stalker, let me tell you about Chernobyl. Those crazy Ruskies really did themselves in with this one. On April 26, 1986, things got real cuckoo bananas when the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine suffered a huge power increase to its 4th reactor. And unlike 3 Mile Island, this reactor core actually exploded and shot out huge amounts of radioactive materials everywhere, thus in turn creating fallout and having it spread all throughout the atmosphere. Since the Soviets were cheap and figured a core meltdown was a thing of American movies, they never made a containment building to keep all that radiation in. And due to that, like I said, fallout went a lot of places around the Earth, even winding up in the eastern United States. Don't worry though, scientists say that it'll be safe to move back into Pripyat about, 900 years, give or take, once all the radioactive decay is safe to be around. So, it's okay. It's not like the Soviets basically nuked themselves in a little bit or anything like that. Also, this kind of reminds me of the game Stalker. Look it up. It's basically Russian Fallout, but really amazing. Well, that's it for this list, everybody. As we say, if you did make it this far, make sure to hit us up in the comments below, because we always try to respond. Also, don't forget to drop a like down below, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys.